Thank you, INPA. In fact, since INPA has already issued a writ that the speaker has to contain themselves within 10 minutes, I would rather not go into the formalities. I will just comply with his direction. So the basic topic that has been allotted to me is how a mediation window can be built in the arbitration house. Primarily, we are talking about institutional arbitration. But when we talk about any alternatives, see, the most attractive limb of that alternative is the party autonomy. That is, the parties decide, or parties retain control as to who should decide your matter, as to how it should be decided, as to when it should be decided, as to be where it should be decided, and the cost and the time. So all these things are within the control of the parties. And this was one major aspect or major attraction that attracted the business community to adopt ADR. In fact, I'm just restricting to ADR and not talking about alternative dispute resolution because, in fact, today in morning session, Mr. Lilith Basin has said we should drop the name alternative. I'll come to that later. But of course, arbitration, if you take arbitration, it became more legalistic in the sense when the Federal Arbitration Act was enacted by the US in 1925, certain party autonomies were taken off. In the sense when I said the party should have the liberty or the option to decide when, where, who, how, the Federal Arbitration Act closed two doors on party autonomy. The exit door was closed. So once you opt for arbitration, there is no exit. Unless, of course, both parties decide. One party cannot exit. And the final conclusion made by the arbitrator was more akin to a judicial pronouncement. So it became more binding. So these two aspects made it more legalistic after the enactment of the Federal Arbitration Act in 1925. So there was something that was required to be changed because the party autonomy or the attraction of the ADR system has to be revived. And that is exactly why the Pound Conference was initiated in 1976. In fact, it was on April 1976. It was convened in Minnesota, US. It was named after the renowned dean of the Harvard Law School, Roscoe Pound. And there, in fact, Professor Frank Sander, he gave a proposal that the party should be given more options for dispute resolution. And they should be given variety of options, not just one option of litigation or arbitration. A variety of options should be given. And it was at that time that mediation gained an equal status or an equal importance. Of course, mediation was there right centuries back, but it was in 1976 Pound Conference that mediation was launched as an equivalent or as a major ADR method which can gain attraction of the business community. Because how and when and in what status these ADR methods could be adopted it is in fact the Pound Conference is said to be the birth of modern dispute resolution mechanisms. And from that period onwards, 1976 onwards, mediation was considered as a very valid and important dispute resolution option. And there was, in fact, in 2008, there was a survey conducted by the PricewaterhouseCoopers, and it said, the survey says that there is a high level of user satisfaction for arbitration. And arbitration was considered as one of the best methods of international commercial dispute resolution method. But when a study was conducted on that survey, it was revealed that 92% of the matters which were referred to in the PwC survey, the participants were referring to disputes resolved during the preliminary process of arbitration. So in fact, they were reflecting to a process where disputes could be resolved during the process of arbitration, not by a final award, but by a settlement made before that. So actually, the parties were reflecting to a negotiation or mediation done during the process of arbitration. And subsequently, if you look at, there was a convention of dispute resolution or shaping the dispute resolution in future, which was conducted in October 2014 in London, where more than 150 delegates from more than 25 countries participated. And the data that was released from that convention was more than 80% of the users, in fact, in that conference or that convention, it was the users or the business parties or the persons directly involved in business who were participating in that conference, along with the legal advisors. When I say legal advisors, that's the in-house counsels, not the external counsels. So they know what the business or the business interests of the companies are. So in fact, that data also revealed that 80% of the participants wanted the arbitral institutions or the arbitrators to suggest to parties ways by which they can resolve it before venturing into a full-fledged arbitration process. And of course, 2/3 of the participants said there has to be a cooling off period in the arbitration session before a full-fledged arbitration can happen. So in that convention also, the idea was there has to be an innovative method of dispute resolution which should not be just within the framework of arbitration. It should be an inclusive method where disputes could be resolved by retaining the control within the parties. I had mentioned to you about the Pound Conference. That happened in 1976. 2016 is the 40th anniversary of the first Pound Conference, and of course, the International Mediation Institute has formulated a scheme where the 40th anniversary would be commemorated in 40 venues in 30 countries around the world. And the inaugural conference was held in March 2016 at Singapore, and the final one would be held in London in July 2017, and in India we are having the conference in May 2017. And almost about 18 countries have already conducted this GPC, the Global Pound Conference. And the data that has come out from the conference is also very, very indicative. In the sense, see, normally we see that ADR, or of course arbitration or mediation, the parties prefer because of the speed that it gives you, the finality that it gives you, the confidentiality that it gives you, all these final aspects. But these data which has come out from the GPC now is very, very revealing. It says the parties or the business community opt arbitration or mediation, not just because it is fast, it is economical, or it is final, or it is binding. It's not that. They have opted for ADR because of the quality of the outcome. So leave aside all the other benefits, because suppose, in fact, some of the major international clients, like for example, the GE Oil and Gas, one of the major clients in arbitration industry. See, at one point of time, they had decided to opt out from arbitration because some of the jurisdictions or some of the courts in various jurisdictions were willing to give or deliver justice much faster than arbitration. So when we compare about arbitration with courts, suppose tomorrow the courts are going to become very efficient. They are going to give you an outcome within 2 months. Do you say that we have to stop arbitration? Suppose you are comparing about delay. You're comparing about the cost. Suppose the court are going to be competitive. They're going to give or deliver justice much faster. Do you say that arbitration will not be able to thrive in that situation? No. So definitely the importance or the focus has to be on the quality of the outcome. So if the quality is good, then naturally people are attracted to it. So that is why many of the institutions now, it is very clear, it is very evident that the business community around the globe are preferring mediation as one of the very strong alternatives to dispute resolution from arbitration or mediation. And that is why now ADR is not referred to as alternative, as Mr. Lalit Basan said. Now it is referred to as appropriate dispute resolution. ADR is not anymore alternative, it has become appropriate. So why it has become appropriate? Because institutions and statutes have integrated mediation within the parameter of arbitration. And that is why, if you look at many of the statutes, like in Australia, in US, or in Germany, or in Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, any countries, even in India. See, the arbitration statute provides for a window of settlement through a mediation process within the parameter of arbitration. And if you look at major institutions like ICC in Paris, which the earlier speaker was referring to, like the CIIA in England, like SIAC in Singapore, because SIAC is closely interacting with the SIMC, and they have introduced the ARB-MEDA protocol, where once you invoke arbitration, it is automatically referred to mediation, and then it is settled, and the matters which are not settled come back to the arbitral tribunal, and arbitration is done, or the matter is resolved, then it comes back again to the arbitral tribunal, where the award is given on consensual terms. So it becomes executable under the New York Convention. So all these innovations are happening. So what I would like to stress is, if we are going to continue in our ad hoc system in India, these type of innovations are not possible, because these innovations and innovations in rules can be made possible only if the institutions can bring effective changes in the rules. Of course, as one of my earlier panelists said, institutions, there has to be hardware and software. I don't disagree on that. But bricks and mortars and what you call cement and chairs and tables will not make an institution. An institution has to work on the brilliant ideas that the institutions project, because it is the rules that makes the institutions work. And of course, like any other institution, if the institution can make brilliant innovations by combining different methods of dispute resolution, tagged down with arbitration, and it can work wonders. Because see, that is how it makes business sense to business people, because what they want is resolution at the earliest. And in fact, in the inaugural session, Justice Mushtaq was referring to court challenges, because even if you have an award in your hand, the courts will take years and years to adjudicate on the challenge. If the parties can retain control, and if the parties can get resolutions through a consensual method during the process of arbitration, why should they challenge at all? Because they are getting what they want. They are getting the best result out of the dispute resolution process. So there is no requirement for a challenge. It is not as a matter of course that you challenge every award. So basically, it is the method in which the institution functions. It's the method by which the institution projects itself, the method by which the rules are innovated, that you can succeed in building up this concept of institutional arbitration. Because saying that just institutional arbitration will make wonders, I don't believe it. Because institutional arbitration can make wonders only if the institution performs to their best potential. Otherwise, just by saying that ad hoc arbitration will not work, only institutional arbitration will work, it's a very blank statement. Unless and otherwise, because see, there are hundreds of institutions all around the world, but why certain institutions are getting enormous work? Certain, the companies or the business community are preferring certain destinations or preferring certain particular institutions because they offer the best services. Without service, why do you require an institution? Because of course, institutional arbitration will be little more expensive than ad hoc arbitration because you have an administrative expenses incurred in the institution. So naturally, if you want to project institutional arbitration, the quality of the institution, the quality of the rules of the institutions has to be much better. And of course, I would also like to tell Mr. Indravijayan that IAM has also introduced emergency arbitration provision, and we have given emergency awards, which was challenged in courts, but the courts have agreed that it is possible. Because the emergency arbitration, in fact, from 1/1/2017, the IAM arbitration rules were amended. The latest INSUTRAL arbitration rules were amended with certain changes, and the INSUTRAL has also endorsed the IAM arbitration rules, and we have incorporated the emergency provision. So I would like to re-emphasize that I would congratulate the organizers of the CIIA for opening up an institution like this. And I hope, this culture of institutional arbitration can develop and constructively bring out a change in the Indian legal scenario. Thank you.